Imagine for a second that every password you've ever created, every single encrypted message you've ever sent, your bank logins, medical records, and highly private company files suddenly became wide open. For years, we've all operated under this comforting assumption that massive data exposure on that scale was at least a decade away. But, well, that timeline just shattered. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at a paradigm-shifting reality where the safety net we rely on for global data security is breaking down much, much earlier than anyone predicted. If you're an executive or a leader tasked with protecting sensitive information, this is absolutely the most critical briefing you're going to hear today.
So let's quickly map out where we're headed. First, we'll cover the 10-year quantum leap. Second, AI, the unseen accelerant. Third, harvest now, decrypt later. And finally, we'll wrap up with a prudent leader's checklist. Okay, part 1, the 10-year quantum leap. Let's look at the collapse timeline of quantum decryption.
All right, let's just dive straight into it. 10,000. That is the new magic number. A team of scientists recently proved they can break modern encryption with just 10,000 qubits from a quantum computer. To really put that into perspective, we thought we had a 10-year buffer before reaching that level of capability. But, it isn't some futuristic sci-fi scenario anymore. It's happening right now, completely reshaping how we have to think about digital defense. For a long time, the cybersecurity world basically held this core belief. You would need roughly 20 million qubits to crack our current encryption models. 20 million! I mean, that massive number is exactly why we felt we had a cozy decade of safety. But the new reality? It's a mere 10,000 qubits. That isn't just a minor technical update, it's a total paradigm shift that literally erases our decade-long runway. Let's look at March 2026, because two absolute bombshells dropped within a single week. First, Google's Quantum AI team published research showing they cut the resources needed to crack elliptic curve encryption by a massive factor of 20. And then, literally days later, a startup called Oraic demonstrated that a quantum computer with just 10,000 to 26,000 qubits could crack ECC 256. Now, just for context, ECC 256 is the gold standard protecting most of the financial internet. If that falls, the whole foundation of digital trust falls with it. And Oraic cracked it in roughly 10 days. 10 days. The reaction was immediate. Cloudflare instantly accelerated their quantum-safe deadline by 6 years. One researcher called it a real shock, and Oraic's co-founder bluntly stated, "The world is not prepared." Moving on to part 2. AI, the unseen accelerant. How artificial intelligence is actually speeding up the clock. Now, this is the part that genuinely shakes up the tech world. Artificial intelligence was completely instrumental in developing this new cracking algorithm. Behind the scenes, one Google researcher even told a friend he was using AI and seeing, quote, lots of crazy results. And almost immediately, just weeks later, Google began posting jobs for quantum researchers specifically to build AI-based discovery pipelines. This isn't a fluke. It signifies a permanent shift in research strategy. And this brilliantly illustrates the core dynamic at play here. AI accelerates quantum computing, and in turn, quantum computing accelerates AI. These are arguably the two most powerful technologies in human history, and they're now caught in this continuous feedback loop, just feeding off each other. Together, this powerful combination is exactly the force that just shaved an entire decade off the global encryption crisis timeline. Which brings us to part 3, harvest now, decrypt later. Let's talk about the silent threat to your current data. Let's define a critical term the industry uses. Harvest now, decrypt later is the practice of capturing encrypted data today, simply to store it and wait until those powerful quantum computers become available to decrypt it later. Think of it like a highly patient thief. They aren't trying to pick the lock on your safe today. Instead, they're just stealing the entire locked safe, carrying it out the back door, and sticking it in a warehouse. Because cloud storage is incredibly cheap right now, bad actors can hoard literal mountains of data indefinitely, just waiting for tomorrow to open it. So what exactly is inside those safes? Well, nation-states and bad actors are right now capturing and storing highly sensitive encrypted information. We're talking about government communications, deep financial records, highly personal health data, and your proprietary business secrets. And here's the kicker. Business secrets or health data don't magically expire in 5 years. The secrets you're dutifully protecting today could easily be fully exposed tomorrow. The source material for this explainer actually frames this moment perfectly, with a quote from Proverbs, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." Now, this is brought up not to cause panic, but to emphasize a real mindset shift.
This is absolutely not a moment to panic. It's a moment for prudence. It's a moment for executive wisdom and having the courage to be a first mover. We have the data to see what's coming, right? The only question is whether you have the leadership to act on it before that deadline hits. Let's jump into our final section, Part 4, a prudent leader's checklist. These are the actionable steps you can take to upgrade data security now. Okay, there is genuinely good news here. The solutions, they actually exist today. If you run a business that handles any kind of sensitive data, the post-quantum encryption standards are already public. NIST, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has already released them. You don't have to invent the lock, you just have to install it. So here is your immediate 3-step executive checklist. Step 1, audit your legacy encrypted data. You have to know exactly what's currently vulnerable to that harvest now threat we talked about. Step 2, adopt those public NIST post-quantum standards. And Step 3, accelerate your migration timelines. Look, Google is aggressively migrating to these new standards by 2029. As a prudent leader, your goal should be to migrate your systems right now, staying well ahead of that 2029 target. Because honestly, if the tech giants are treating that as the absolute finish line, you literally cannot afford to be late. Ultimately, it all comes down to a really clear choice in organizational leadership. The simple approach is to dismissively ignore this collapsed timeline, pretend that 10-year buffer still exists, and then just pay the penalty when quantum decryption goes fully mainstream. But the prudent approach, the required leadership mandate for us today, is to resolutely view this not just as some annoying IT expense, but as absolutely critical risk management, and begin migrating your legacy systems today. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Take a close look at your own organization's current data flows. Is your legacy data already sitting in a bad actor server somewhere just waiting to be unlocked? Remember, the clock has advanced by an entire decade, but the tools to defend yourself are public and ready. The time for executive prudence is right now. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take these insights straight to your security teams today.